on the prior year budget reductions carried forward into 24-25? Nope. Okay. We'll then move on to Appendix 2, which is the budget reductions risk tracker for September 24. Seems like a really silly time to have a break at this moment, isn't it? No. Okay. And then Appendix 3, which is the revenue budget monitoring, and September 24. Noting the overspends in Education, Early Years and Young People's Directorate, Social Services and Wellbeing, the Community's Chief Executive and Council-wide budgets. And those, can't see any questions. I think we covered most of them in some other parts of the report. So if all members are happy, we'll leave that item. Give everyone a second just to find their buttons if they want to use the raise hand. No? Okay. All righty then. That definitely was a sensible time to have a break, wasn't it? So thank you everyone, for all the attendees for attending today. You are more than welcome to stay and listen to our talk about our recommendations and what have you, but I no doubt your calendars are extremely full and so have other meetings to be at. So thank you all for coming.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Right. I think we'll carry on then, as most members have left or are leaving. Okay, so we'll go to agenda item 6, which is conclusions and recommendations. Stephen, you've been obviously typing away very thoroughly over there. Meryl's coming back in, so we're going to do it that way. Okay. And the leader and the chief exec will eventually leave the meeting. Meryl, yeah, you're going to do the PSB one, I think, aren't you? Yeah.
Thank you, Chair. So just to remind the committee that the report requested that following the feedback from the PSB, that they now have a forward work programme and on the work that is ongoing. We ask for nominations for this municipal year, 5 members to the Cwmtaf Morgannwg Public Service Board Joint Overview and Scrutiny Committee and 1 substitute member to attend when one of the core members is not available, based on the political balance of the committee as follows. So we're looking for 3 members from Labour, 1 member and 1 substitute member from the Bridgend County Independents and 1 member from the Democratic Alliance. So I'll hand back to you, Chair, to ask for nominations.
Thank you, Meryl. On that note then, we will go to Councillor Martin Hughes.
Yes, thanks, Chair. The Labour Party nominations are Simon Griffiths, Hugh David and myself.
Do we need seconding them or are we all right with that? I will second all of them then. Fabulous. Amanda? Sorry, Councillor Amanda Williams.
Yeah, our nominations are Councillor Tim Thomas and the reserve is Councillor Freya Bledsoe.
Fantastic. Thank you very much for that. And I will second them as well, for the sake of brevity here. And then from the Democratic Alliance, I know obviously the leader of that group is not here, Councillor Ross Pennell Thomas, but Councillor Ulberini Williams, do you have a nomination? Which possibly could be yourself.
Morning. I guess the only nomination is me.
Yeah, fabulous. I nominated himself there, I think, and I'll second his nomination as well. So if that's, I'll call the close of nominations unless anyone else wants to, any other groups want to challenge their own group's nominations. Seems a bit silly, but there we are. Fabulous. All right, then we'll have our nominees.
Thank you, members, and we will be in touch with details of upcoming meetings and liaise with Rhondda Cynataff who support the meeting about your details for contacting you. Thank you. Bye. Fantastic.
Thank you very much for that. Then we will go on to the substantive item, the budget monitoring of 24-25. Stephen, do you want to take us through them?
Yes, thank you, Chair. Well, I'll provide a brief summary of the issues that were brought up and discussed. And I have some requests for further information, but maybe we could follow it up with a discussion about specific recommendations that members of the committee want to make. Obviously, one of the key points was about the impact of the situation at the Princess of Wales and the on-costs for social care. We also discussed the top-up fees issue for social care and the pressure on decision-making that will arise as a result of the ongoing crisis from the Princess of Wales and the impact on the CTM footprint. We also discussed school deficits and earmarked reserves and the deficit recovery plans and how those are going. Members also brought up the issue of home to school transport, particularly in terms of price caps, different approaches to tendering and so on, how cost savings are being achieved, and particularly the issue of bespoke transport being in short supply, and the budgets obviously continue to grow for children going to special schools and how that will be managed in the future. Members also discussed the issue of additional learning needs, how different models of support could result in, could impact on the budget situation. And it was thought that this was something that could be taken up by a scrutiny committee, particularly SOC 1, potentially. But obviously there'll need to be a discussion about that. Members also discussed the issue of homelessness and housing. And there were two requests for information there. One was how we compared with other authorities, and Caris committed to sending information about that. And then there was the issue of whether we were dealing with individuals or households in terms of the number of people or households that are homeless within the local authority. And Caris again committed to sending out more information or clarifying that situation. So that's two requests for information arising from that issue. And then there was the issue, again, of sustainability in terms of revenue overspend. We still have to await in the next meetings round in November more information about the capital budget. But as Caris noted, there was a very interesting report from Audit Wales that was discussed at the last Governance and Audit Committee about budget management within the local authority. And if members haven't read that, that's a potentially very interesting read about the current situation and how this is being managed. Just to remind members also, the leader brought up something new, I think, in terms of trying to achieve an extra 3 months of savings in this round by introducing potential cuts from the 1st of January rather than from March onwards. I mean, that's something else maybe we might need more information about in the future. But anyway, we would obviously welcome members' recommendations at this point. Thank you.
Thanks for that, Stephen. I think on taking your final point there first on the budget cuts coming in on the 1st of January, if they're possible, and not March, further down the line. I think that's to be an interesting one, and definitely one. I agree with Councillor David in his comments that it's a welcome thing, and especially seeing the urgency of our budget situation. But I think from a scrutiny perspective, we need to make sure that there is some level of scrutiny from whether it be ourselves or whether it be on BREP, that we are able to feed into that, because just doing it on the 1st of January, I think, might cause a few issues. I'm just trying to think ahead of what potentially could be. There might not be any, but I wonder if there's some form of that we'll need more information on how scrutiny can feed into that process, because we need to be able to consult in making budgetary decisions over Christmas on the 1st of January, and having no scrutiny could lead to potential pitfalls, I'm thinking. So just having that sort of critical ear, critical friend type situation to go over those points first. But I think you've captured them from what I can remember of the points of them made. I don't know if members have any other comments or recommendations that you think may have been missed. I think there's a couple of reports there for SOC 1 and SOC 2, a couple of things we want to get clarity on, whether it was households or individuals. We were all counting on the housing. So has anyone got anything they'd like to add, or anything that was missed that we need to put in? Councillor Williams?
It was just for me, my comment on ensuring that we've got the up-to-date deficit recovery figures, because a lot of schools have only put in deficit recovery plans for this year when they've been told to project for another 2% cut next year. So the figure we have is just for this year, where we should really be having the figure for next year as well, because they've been told to plan ahead. And I think if we were to see that as a committee, we would it would identify that the picture is even bleaker and there's significant deficits, and there will be a larger number of schools with a deficit recovery plan because their deficits will be over 5%.
Yeah, I think that's something we can look forward to in Q3 and go from there, really. Thank you for that. Councillor David?
Yeah, thanks, Chair. I do hope that one of the scrutiny committees will consider in particular the budget around learner support, because that is quite significant. There's a £1.3 million overspend currently projected, and it is part of a wider overspend in terms of children with additional learning needs, and I do think that needs to be considered in the round, because there's also that big pressure around home to school transport for children with additional learning needs and children attending special schools. So I think that's something that we should consider, on whether there's some investor save, or at least proposals that don't end up costing more money. Savings proposals don't just cost more money. I think that's a possible recommendation for the committee. I'd also like clarity as well, personally, around the figures around homelessness, because if I've looked at the narrative again, and it's clearly the narrative is that the number of homeless people we're supporting temporary accommodation is rising.
Yeah.
Not that it's stabilised. And those figures have been used previously, or figures in those region. But my bigger point was we're providing more affordable accommodation for those people, which is good. That's positive. But we don't want them to be accommodated in the first place.
Yeah.
And there are alternatives, whether that's how emergency direct housing benefit payments, whether it's bonds, to try and keep people in accommodation before they're made homeless, or assessing whether they actually need temporary housing accommodation, whether they can stay where they are with family members or whatever it is. So it's understanding that process through the budgetary lens is, I think, quite an important area of work for us if it hasn't been considered by another committee, because clearly there's a big overspend on that budget, and the overspend's down, but it's still an overspend, and we need to understand whether that overspend is going to come down or not. And there's another point I was going to make with your indulgence, Chair, about a different area then, if that's okay.
No, it's just on the homelessness one. There is a report going to SOC 3 at the start of December. We're going to look at housing and homelessness in a little bit more detail. And I'm sure I know the report hasn't been written yet, but I'm wondering if we could just add on the sort of prevention of homelessness as well, because I know Martin will obviously be coming to that, and there are some members present here and on this committee who are on SOC 3, so no doubt we can take that forward. But yeah, just to say that we will have that report coming to us on, I think it's the first Monday in December. But yeah, your other point, Councillor David.
And on that, Chair, I hope that the committee will have the opportunity to explore the models that are used by other local authorities in Wales, and being clear, if we do have much higher levels of people accommodated in temporary accommodation, why is that in Bridgend? What is unique to Bridgend? And what models are used by other local authorities? And that's not just because of the financial costs, but obviously it's not the best outcome, is it, for people to be in temporary accommodation? So I'm not saying that just for financial reasons, but nevertheless, that is having a big impact on us. And my third point was just going to be around the social services budget and suggestion around the recommendations. We've obviously got a sustainability plan for social services, but still the biggest overspend is in social services. And we know that progress has been made, but is finance a big enough part of that plan? Because sustainable social services has to be financially sustainable as well. I'm sure it is, but I think it's important we understand that. There's some actions that the director referenced, for example, around the pooled funding for placements. I think, and I can't remember exact words, but we've had a partnership approach in Bridgend with the Health Board, and perhaps that partnership approach needs to be different, because some of these placements can cost tens, hundreds of thousands of pounds, and if we're joint funding them, that could be millions of pounds. And if we need to have a different approach where we're not going to fund those places to the same degree, or we're going to have difficult conversations with the Health Board, then I would suggest that's something we need to understand as a committee, and what more work we can do to ensure that that other partners are paying a fair contribution. Now, what we don't have in this report, because the layout of the report is the figures on that, because it cuts across different services, cuts across mental health, learning disabilities, older people. But I would like to understand that, because it's potentially millions and millions of pounds, and it is a corporate issue, actually, in the sense of potentially it's one of the factors around our overspend, and I'd certainly like to understand better our arrangements around that. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you for that, Councillor David. I think we've captured them. Does anyone have any other further comments or questions before we move on? I think we've captured it. Aaron? Oh, yeah. Probably should ask. Thank you, Meryl. Are we all in agreement with the recommendations and the request for further information and other items to potentially go on forward work programmes of other committees? Councillor David?
Sorry, my last contribution, I promise. It's just a question around the action that's been taken by Cabinet, the Corporate Management Board, the non-essential recruitment freeze, non-essential expenditure. We did have a response from the from the Chief Officer for Finance, Performance and Change that there's some evidence of that. we haven't got any of that in the report. I think it would be helpful to see that in the next revenue forecast report, and what further action needs to be taken as well. Because whilst there's been a reduction in the overspend, which is certainly welcome, there's still an overspend there, isn't there? In a big diverse organisation like this one, one officer's interpretation of essential spend would be very different to another officer's, and probably very different to a member's interpretation of what is essential and what's non-essential. So understanding that, I think, would be helpful to us as members, because we may want to make recommendations about further action that needs to be taken to manage the overspend that is there. Thanks, Chair.
No worries, thank you, Councillor David. I don't disagree. Without it, can I get a mover and a seconder then for the recommendations and everything?
Yeah, happy to.
Thank you, Councillor Williams.
Second.
Thank you, Councillor Granville. Right then, if we're all happy then, we'll move on to agenda item 7, which is our forward work programme update. Stephen, thank you.
Thank you, Chair. The forward work programme for COSC is attached to Appendix A in the document pack for the committee's consideration, and the recommendations monitoring action sheet to track outstanding responses to the committee's recommendations made at previous meetings is attached at Appendix B. The forward work programmes for the subject overview and scrutiny committees are attached as appendices C, D and E, following consideration in their respective committee meetings. I'll hand back to you, Chair, for any questions or comments from members. Thank you.
Fabulous. We'll take the corporate forward work programme first. Does anyone have any questions or comments on it? No? Okie doke. Then we'll go on to subject overview and scrutiny committee 1. I don't know if Councillor Williams has any comments on it. No? Okay, that's fine. Anyone? Looks fine to me. I would, of course, ask Councillor Bledsoe, but she's not here. So 2, everyone okay with? For those who are on it especially? Yeah. And then my own subject overview and scrutiny committee 3. I've got nothing to say on it. Councillor David. Hands full.
I was very slow in pressing my button earlier, apologies. I just wanted to check the school modernisation programme was going to be considered by overview and scrutiny, and I can't see it on this forward work programme. I don't know if there's a reason why that's not now being considered. As I know, they were reviewing the 21st Century School Modernisation Programme, weren't they? And we're looking for an input from overview and scrutiny. Thanks, Chair.
Chair, thank you. It is on the long list, I believe, but I believe in recent work planning meetings it was pushed back because we're waiting for some information from Welsh Government. But we will be having a planning meeting, as we do in each round, with each chair and cabinet member early next month, and we'll pick that up, I'm sure, with Lindsay and the cabinet member, and of course Councillor Alex Williams is our chair of SOC1.
Councillor David?
Thanks, Chair.
Okay, no problem at all. Councillor Hughes?
Yeah, there was one item, I think it was picked up in governance and audit at the last meeting, about scrutiny of partner organisations, including Arwen. There was some discussion and we weren't quite sure about the regularity and where that fits in, so I think it's appropriate to raise that now.
No?
There is an item on the SOC2 work programme for Arwen, and there is also plans for a meeting between the chair of governance and audit and the scrutiny chairs to discuss the sort of remits and limiting crossover between the committees and not having duplication, etc. So those both should be picked up shortly.
Yeah, thanks. Okay.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you very much, Councillor Hughes. Any further comments? Councillor David, you have your hand up.
Indeed. Thank you, Chair. In our agreement with Valleys to Coast, when there was a change in our representation, because we used to have representation on the board of Valleys to Coast, there was the requirement that they would attend overview and scrutiny committee. I can see it's there. Or it's an or though, isn't it? And I just think it's important that if we can accommodate them, we do accommodate them. I know they make presentations to full council, but that's different, isn't it, to being formally scrutinised in a overview and scrutiny committee environment. And as I say, it was a requirement of our changes to our relationship with Valleys to Coast. So hopefully we can find time within the forward work programme to deliver on that. Thank you, Chair.
Chair, I think the or doesn't refer to whether we have it at all. It's just about the timing of it, whether we have it then or somewhere else. So it is a feature on the work programme at least annually, and we try not to have it around the same time as a council meeting where they're coming in anyway to have general questions from members. But the or was just about the timing rather than the not having it at all. So yeah, we take that forward.
Fabulous. Thank you, Meryl. Councillor Davies? Yep, thumb up. Fabulous. Okay. With that then, can I have a mover and seconder for those forward work programmes?
Move.
We had two moves there. Can I take one move as a second then, Meryl? From Councillor Davies and Councillor Griffiths. Okie dokie then. If that... Oh, I've lost my paperwork now. Okay, agenda item 8. Urgent items. I have no urgent items. I'm looking to Meryl and Stephen. They have no urgent items. And I declare this meeting closed at 12:24. Thank you, everyone, and I'll see you all soon.
Thanks very
Thank you,
much.
Chair.
Bye.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you, everybody.